Shalom from Israel to all of the Daystar viewers around the world. I'm Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer and founder of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible when David said in Psalm 25:5, "Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And God says in Zechariah 8:16, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak out the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment to peace in your gates. And always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free." John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, Canada has thwarted a major terrorist attack. According to Royal Canadian Mounted Police, 2 men supported by al-Qaeda in Iran were planning to attack and derail a passenger train. U.S. officials have stated that the rail line between Toronto and New York was the target.
Egypt is dismissing the possibility of improving its strained relations with Israel until peace is achieved with the Palestinians. Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi has gone on the record stating that until that time he will not visit Israel nor host any Israeli leader. Ties between Jerusalem and Cairo deteriorated after the rise of Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood to power. During the revolt that led to the fall of former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak, the Israeli embassy in Cairo was besieged by protesters, forcing the evacuation of the ambassador and staff to safety.
The Jordanian government has granted Israel the use of its airspace. According to a report in the French newspaper Le Figaro, King Abdullah agreed to allow Israeli jets to use Jordan's airspace in order to monitor the deteriorating situation in Syria, as well as to attack the country's chemical weapons facilities if the need arises. The report claims that Israeli drones are already using 2 corridors of Jordanian airspace at night to avoid detection. A Western military source told the paper that the UAVs are surveilling the situation in the war-shattered country, but that they are also armed and therefore can hit targets anywhere in Syria.
CNN has reported that the bodies of more than 560 people were discovered in Syria last week following 6 days of intensified fighting between troops loyal to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and anti-government rebels. The United Nations estimates that more than 70,000 people have been killed in the war that has now been raging for more than 2 years.
The European Union is considering legislation that will require member states to label items produced in the heartland of Israel as made in the West Bank. The bill requires that any product made by Jews in the Golan Heights, Judea and Samaria, and parts of Jerusalem be marked so that consumers can know on which side of the pre-1967 borders the product was produced.
The Teachers Union of Ireland has become the first educational trade union in Europe to adopt a boycott against Israeli academia. Prompted by repeated calls from Palestinian activists to do so, the TUI has banned the exchange of scientists, students, and academic figures, as well as all cooperation between the 2 countries' research programs. The measure is also calling on the Irish Congress of Trade Unions to step up its own campaign for the BDS, or Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions, against what it refers to as the apartheid state of Israel, until it lifts its illegal siege of Gaza and ends its illegal occupation of the West Bank.
The barrage of rockets on southern Israel has resumed. Numerous missiles have been fired into the Eshkol region from Gaza, and 2 rockets were fired from Egypt at the Red Sea resort city of Eilat, damaging a residential neighborhood. A Salafi jihadist group claimed responsibility for the Eilat attack. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told the cabinet that the rockets were likely fired from a Gaza-based terrorist cell. He said last week missiles were fired at Eilat from Sinai. Those responsible apparently were members of a terrorist group that left Gaza and used Sinai in order to attack an Israeli city.
The U.S. Department of Defense is finalizing a $10 billion arms deal with Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. According to the New York Times, the deal is aimed at bolstering defenses against possible Iranian threats in the future. A U.S. official told the Times that the deal is designed not just to bolster Israel's capabilities, but also to boost the abilities of its Persian Gulf partners so that they too would be able to address the Iranian threat and provide a greater network of coordinated assets around the region to handle a range of contingencies. Israel was reportedly assured by the U.S. that it would monitor the use of the advanced equipment sold to the UAE and Saudi Arabia. The historic arms deal will provide Israel with missiles for its fighter aircraft, KC-135 refueling planes, and V-22 Osprey transport planes. It's also guaranteeing that the Jewish state will be given $3 billion in military aid in the upcoming year.
U.S. Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel was in the Holy Land last week to promote the close military cooperation between the United States and Israel. The newly appointed defense chief told reporters that the U.S. and Israel view the Iranian threat exactly the same. He said that there is no daylight between Jerusalem and Washington in preventing Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. Hagel told reporters that Israel is a model for the world and added that our relationship is as strong as it's ever been. Netanyahu responded that Israel appreciates the military and security support that it enjoys from the United States. It reflects a very deep alliance between our two countries and the defense of our common interest and values. Nowhere are these values challenged more than by the arming of terrorist groups by Iran with sophisticated weapons, and equally by Iran itself with nuclear weapons. The Prime Minister added that Israel cannot accept this and stressed that Hagel and President Obama have repeatedly said that Israel must be able to defend itself by itself against any threat.
5 Israeli Arab residents of Jerusalem have been indicted for plotting to murder and kidnap Jews. The suspects, who are aged between 20 to 25, were charged with a series of serious security offenses, including attempted kidnapping, attempted murder, contact with a foreign agent, and numerous weapons charges. The men are accused of contacting terrorist organizations to request assistance in acquiring weapons, as well as the training required to use them. They allegedly conspired to gun down Jewish worshippers as they prayed at the Western Wall, the throwing of grenades at Israeli police, and the abduction murder of an Israeli hitchhiker.
The U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee has officially adopted Senate Resolution 65, a bill that guarantees Israel America's support if the Jewish state takes action against Iran. The resolution stipulates that if Israel strikes Iran's nuclear facilities, Israel will continue to enjoy diplomatic, economic, and military aid from the U.S. 70 of 100 senators gave their backing to Resolution 65.
Security staff at Israel's embassy in Nepal have arrested an Iranian man after they suspected that he made repeated visits to the vicinity to scout the facility and intelligence gathering efforts. Mohsin Khosravian was then handed over to local police, where he remains in custody. The suspect was discovered to have been carrying a falsified Israeli passport after hiding his documentation from Iran. And investigators believe that he may have been planning a series of terrorist attacks against the embassy and Israeli tourists in the capital city of Kathmandu. Israel has accused Iran of plotting the bombing of its embassy in New Delhi last year. At the same time, another bomb was safely detonated outside the location of Israel's embassy in Tbilisi, Georgia. Also in 2012, Turkish police say they exposed an Iranian espionage cell, and another Iranian national was deported from India for spying on several sites known to be gathering points for Jews and Israeli citizens.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu expressed Israel's condolences following the terrorist bombing in Boston. He said a day of happiness in Boston turned into one of tragedy and fear. We send our condolences to the President, the American people, and the families of the victims. Israel stands shoulder to shoulder with the American people. Israel's President Shimon Peres said that in the name of the Israeli nation and the Jewish people, I wish to express our condolences to all the families who suffered losses and wish a speedy recovery to the injured. At times like this, we are all one family. We feel with those families who have paid such a high price. Terror is a major problem today. Terrorism is not a policy by governments, but a threat that causes fear and divisiveness and destroys innocent people.
In the aftermath of the terror attacks in Boston, doctors from Massachusetts General Hospital are praising Israeli medical teams who trained them 2 years ago. A team of Israeli first responders taught the hospital staff important techniques in removing shrapnel from wounds, how to swiftly dispatch the wounded to local hospitals for treatment, and how to prioritize care provided by the facility's emergency rooms. The 19th Israeli Knesset has opened for its summer session. Elected officials were sworn in at the ceremony, where they pledged allegiance to the state and its laws. This is Israel's most diversified cabinet to date, consisting of 13 Arab and Druze citizens, 27 women, and 38 religious members. The first order of business for the newly formed government is consideration of critical financial cuts in an effort to pass an improved state budget. And that concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful day in Jerusalem on our rooftop studio. My guest today is Michael Freund, chairman and founder of Shavei Israel. Michael, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Josh.
Michael, the work that you've done is just legendary. You go around the world finding the lost tribes of Israel and bringing them home. Why did you feel that was a calling to you?
Well, it's not exactly what I expected to be doing when I was growing up. But as we know, sometimes man plans and God plans otherwise. And about 15 years ago, when I was working for Prime Minister Netanyahu during his first term of office, we received a letter from a community, the Bnei Menashe, the children of Manasseh, in the far reaches of northeastern India. They claimed to be descendants of one of the 10 lost tribes of Israel, and they were pleading after 2,700 years to be allowed to come back to Zion. I saw that letter and it moved my heart, and since then I became heavily involved in trying to help that lost tribe of Israel return here to Zion.
It's really staggering what you've been able to do. Shavei Israel has brought back some of the Bnei Menashe, the children of Manasseh, which is the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. How does it feel as a practicing Jew to be a part of that?
It's an incredible blessing. We've been able to bring about 2,000 members of the Bnei Menashe home to Israel, including a group of 270 immigrants just a couple of months ago. We are literally seeing the words of the Bible, the words of the text, come to life before our eyes. The prophecies of old are becoming the truisms of today. And this is an incredible merit that our generation has been granted.
One of the things that's also unique about your organization is that you're not just doing this in participation of Jewish communities, but also Christians are getting involved and helping make this happen. How have you been able to reach out to the Christian community, and what does that mean to you?
It means a lot. It means a great deal to me that a growing number of Christians are partnering in this important work of helping to restore the lost tribes of Israel back to Zion. Because that too was foretold by the prophets. Isaiah, for example, in chapter 49, verse 22, says explicitly that the nations of the world will carry our sons and daughters. They will carry the Jewish people back to the land. And that is what is happening. The nations of the world, the Christians who believe in the Bible and who stand with Israel, are carrying us back with their love, with their prayers, and with their support.
The International Christian Embassy of Jerusalem was helpful in sponsoring a flight of the last group of Bnei Menashe. How does that feel to work with an organization that just partnered with you in that way and then see this fulfillment come true before your very eyes?
It was really an incredible blessing. The ICEJ really stepped up to the plate, and they sponsored a flight of the immigrants from India home to Israel. And this is the real way to bless Israel nowadays. When this country faces so many threats from all around us, there is no better way to strengthen the Jewish state than by playing an active role in the restoration of our people to our land. And that is something, Josh, that each and every person out there can have a part in. For just $1,200, you can pay for the airfare for one immigrant to come from India to Israel. For just $1,800, you can cover the costs of absorbing that new immigrant here in the Jewish state. And even smaller amounts can help to cover costs, such as buying someone luggage to transport their items, to get them a passport, a visa, things of that sort. We all can, if we pull together, we all can bring this miracle about.
There are about 2,000 B'nai Menashe here in Israel, but there are still over 7,000 in India. What is your organization doing to bring the rest of the children back home?
For about 5 years, from 2007 until last year, the Aliyah had been frozen. Just last year, we were able, thank God, to bring about its resumption, and we brought that initial group of the 270 here earlier this year. We now have permission to bring another 900 B'nai Menashe to Israel in 2013, and in the coming 5 to 6 years, we aim to bring all the remaining 7,000 B'nai Menashe Lost Tribe members here to Israel.
Just miraculous. It's really a miracle. Someone of myself who made Aliyah from the United States and Canada to come and see this happening from all over the world is really the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. You yourself made Aliyah. How does this have an impact on you?
It really underlines, it really reaffirms everything that I believe in, everything that I believe about the era in which we all live, that this is a very special time in history, that we are blessed to see the reestablishment of Jewish sovereignty, of a Jewish state here in the land after 2,000 years, and we are blessed to see the ingathering of the exiles from the four corners of the earth. And it is not just Judah, the Jews, such as you and myself, Josh, who are coming home. It is the Jews of Judah, but it is also the tribes of Israel. It is Manasseh and the others. Their ingathering is also beginning to take place, and that should serve as a source of comfort to all of us, because it means at the end of the day that God has not forgotten his promises to his people Israel, and that every word in that book that he gave us, every word of it is truth.
Michael, there are literally tens of millions of people watching the show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
I know that many of you are already praying for Israel, and that Israel is in your hearts and in your thoughts. I would just ask that you add an extra little prayer, and that you plead with the Creator to put it into the hearts of Israel's decision makers to open the door for Aliyah of the lost tribes of Israel and to facilitate their return here to Jerusalem. And in addition, that you consider partnering in this holy miracle, that you consider helping a lost tribe member to finally close the historical circle and return to the land of his ancestors, the land of Israel.
Thank you, Michael, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, shining light from Israel.
This was maybe, I don't know, 70 years ago. I remember this.
I would say it was a very happy childhood.
No radio, no television.
פעם אחת אמרו לי, אתה יודע איך נולדים ילדים? אמרתי לא, אז הם הסבירו לי. אז אמרתי להם, ההורים שלי לא. לא יכול להיות.
It amazes me how little I know about my grandfather.
My father, used to be like a hostage, happy and like a glass of vodka.
You know, life is strange. Life is strange.
I never imagined my grandfather as a child.
My father was a good swimmer, and he put out his hands when I should lay on them, and then he told me the movements, and he pulled away his
And you went
and
down?
I swam, and I swam.
That was the life before the war. He used to give.
I don't know what would have happened to me if I'd grown up in Poland. I think I'd go back, though. There must be someone or some place that you liked when you were a kid.
And I was looking for the place we were living. I couldn't find it, except for one thing. That in our court we have had a well of water. So I was looking for the well, and finally discovered the well. Well, the only thing that wasn't burned was the water. So I sent down a bucket.
My grandfather told me the older he gets, the more he thinks about what it was like to be a kid.
And I drank the water. The people who went with me, they warned me not to drink, but I clearly drank. And that was the only taste of my childhood that remained alive.
Which is funny, because all I want to do is get older.
I'm grateful to be alive, that's it.
Stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
Told me I was talking in my sleep.
Well,
ICEJ, which is International Christian Embassy.
Oh,
it's good. Right.
He's like,
it's very good.
Whiny! Shut up, just knock it off! Yeah, we were awesome.
Arise, boy. You better arise.
At the ICJ, in Arise, our motivation has been always to encourage the new generation, the young generation, to live their lives fully devoted for God, to teach them about the Bible, to show them how to live a truthful life in God, and then to encourage them to share it. Now we're walking in a very special place, which is the Mount of Beatitudes. Jesus held one of the most powerful sermons ever on this place where we're walking right now. He actually said on how to live a life fully devoted to Him and to God. This was the igniter. It was the sparkle that set the fire for the church coming in the future to actually conquer the world and reach the people all over the place. I'm going to read you now a small piece of scripture from Matthew 5, verse 13. You are the salt on the earth. And verse 14 says, you are the light of the world. I think that is what we're called to be, the salt. We're the salt that through us something can grow. Without salt, nothing grows. And that we have to be the light. We have to set our standards so high that we're at the top so everyone can see us. So we're the light illuminating everyone else. I think that's where God has called us, the young generation, to be a light high up and to be a salt, then to make people grow and to make people roll towards God.
We'd like to invite you to this year's edition of the Arise Summit Tour, which will take place from the 1st to the 11th of July. And coming to Israel is a very unique experience which will change your life forever. And right behind me you can see the area where Jesus lived. This is the home of Jesus. And in this area, he changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. And if you come to the Arise Summit Tour, you can do the same thing in your life. So don't hesitate. Sign up for this year's Summit Tour, which will take place from the 1st to the 11th of July.
This is the shoreline where Jesus was walking when he came to gather his disciples that would change the history of humankind, the history of you and me who are watching this show right now. Because of these disciples, we are part of a global church. They went all over the world to preach the gospel. Jesus came to these shores to give them a calling, to leave their work, to leave the things that they were doing, to get a real calling from God. Maybe God is calling you to come to the Arise Summer Tour, to get reignited, to get connected again with your Creator, and to be a part of an international environment where you see people from all over the world and friends that will last forever. Come from the 1st to the 11th of July to change your life and to get connected with your Creator. See you in the beginning of July and get the swagger of Arise.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all your Israel updates.